All right, so what we're going to be discussing here is the body's position that we get to the moment our front foot gets into the ground for the very first time. And this moment in time is called our foot strike. So we are going to be talking about the moment when, boom, those feet get into the ground for the very first time. And again, that's called our foot strike position. At foot strike, we want to be looking at our body in two halves. Our upper half and our lower half. At foot strike, we want our lower half to have rotated forward towards our target. And a useful thing to look at to know if we've been able to do that is the belt buckle. And is that belt buckle facing the target? If the belt buckle is facing the target, it's a pretty good chance that we have successfully rotated both the back foot, the back knee, and the back hip. When we're able to rotate the back foot, the back knee, and the back hip, as our front foot is getting into that foot strike position, we will successfully be able to get our belt buckle driving towards the target. If we specifically take a look at just the back foot of these four guys, let's watch as they are rotating that back leg, how that back foot is rotating. At this point in time, all four guys still have their entire foot flat onto the ground, and then they begin to rotate through or over top of their big toe. Their foot kind of rolls, folds over, or drives forward. And as the foot does that motion, we now shift our view to the back knee and know as the foot is rolling over the big toe, that the back knee is also rotating forward. And how those two things, the back foot and the back knee, are working together. We can also see that as we go to drive and rotate that back foot and back knee, how they do that while they gain ground down the mound and towards their catcher. So this is the difference between rotating our bodies forward, or a word for that is driving ourselves forward, versus just rotating in place. If we were just rotating in place, our bodies would not be able to gain this ground down the mound. Our bodies wouldn't be able to accelerate our power and energy down the mound. And we can then look and see that the foot has the toe, and then the heel is in front of the toe, meaning we have rotated forward. We then go to the upper body, the upper halves, from the waist up, and we want to separate that upper body from the lower body. We want the direction that our hips are facing, which is to the target, to be separate from the direction our shoulders are facing. So we notice we can see the Giants, the Padres, the Pirates, and his number. We can see the Phillies, and we can see the Brewers or Milwaukee. I'm not sure what they have displayed on their jerseys there. So the direction of their lower bodies is to the target, and the direction of their shoulders is still facing, for these right-handers, towards third base, or the direction they have been the entire time. So we rotate the lower body first, then we get into foot strike, then we rotate our upper body second. And the more that we can get those lower bodies to fully rotate to the target by the time that front foot hits the ground, and we've also been able to keep that upper body from rotating and staying back, we will have created as much upper lower half separation or hip shoulder separation as possible. And the more hip shoulder separation or upper lower half separation we can create, the more power we're going to be able to produce, and the amount of stress that's put on our arm is going to be reduced. What we're also going to notice is that almost regardless of your arm slot, if we have a true 3/4, low 3/4, high 3/4, an over-the-top arm slot, or anything in between those, we're always going to find ourselves in a relatively 90 degree angle, meaning from our elbow across to our other shoulder, we want to think is nice and even. 90 degrees in that armpit. We also want to think 90 degrees in that elbow. We want this type of arm position, that 90-90, we'll call it, at the moment of foot strike. When our arm has loaded up to this position here, at the moment of foot strike, and the upper body has not rotated yet, our body's rotation will accelerate the throw forward. If the arm is not in this 90-90 position, the body's rotation forward is going to be less than ideal and in sync with how the arm will flow after the body goes. So we're looking for this 90-90-ish position in that throwing arm at foot strike. What we can also notice at foot strike is, where is this glove at? It's in front of the body by the rib cage. We're not letting it, if we're thinking here's some water, don't drown the glove. Don't let your glove get wet. Don't drown that glove. This one right here is a little too high. Should be more towards the belt. Okay. When the glove gets finished into the body like this, it's able to help keep this front shoulder in line, meaning it's not going to open up early. Because if that front shoulder starts to open up early, that's going to start to pull the back shoulder forward early. And now we would not have separated our upper and lower halves as much, because the angle of the shoulders would begin to rotate forward, which would be more matching the angle of the hips. The final thing we're going to look at is this front leg. We see all these guys have different degrees of bend in their front legs. But what we're going to notice is that as the upper body now rotates to throw, we need to make our front leg become a firm fixture of which we can rotate around. So thinking about this front leg here turning into a flagpole. My flagpole is always going to be strongest if it's straight. Or at least I can't have my flagpole move forward while my body is trying to rotate forward. So we'll redraw these little outlines here, and we will have these guys. Oh man, that's all right. It's going to get back to it anyway. Boom. And now we'll watch as they go to throw. How that leg is locking out, stiffening up, straightening out. So that now that leg is here. Now that leg is here. Now that leg is here and here. From the bend, straightening it out. And what we can notice is as that leg locks out, stiffens up, straightens out, becomes that firm flagpole, notice how that upper body is able to catapult itself out in front and down more. Able to get out in front more. Out in front more. So that way, if we look, we can't get everyone exactly at release, but ball just out, ball just out, ball is coming out, ball is slightly a little bit more out than the bottom two. But we're able to look at this angle of the chin to the waist, back out to the front foot, boom, boom, boom. Just how out in front of themselves they're getting. And that's because of that front leg's ability to lock out. So we can see that they're starting, boom, boom, there, and there. So now it's not just the arm throwing the ball down. It's the body throwing the ball down. It's the body going down with the throw. Body accelerating down. And as the body's accelerating down, the lower half is firming up. So that way, as I need to finish all this violent rotation, I have the ability to do that around that firm front leg. I have that ability to rotate around. I can finish all that violent rotation from my back leg around. I can finish all that violent rotation from my hips around. I can finish all that violent rotation out of my back shoulder around. Giving my arm plenty of time to slow down and giving the back muscles, my scapular muscles, all the time they need to activate and slow down that rapidly accelerating arm. All right, so we got you guys' side view video here synced up to the moment that your guys' front foot gets into the ground. Mahar, as you can see, like we discussed, just how slowly you get through that leg lift. Your leg's almost all the way down before those guys even initiate their leg lift, yet all of us are getting to foot strike at the same exact time. So we'll play that one more time for you to see that. It comes up at a good rate, but then it kind of slowly comes to a pause, and then we hunch, reach our leg, and now we finally start to get going forward. So the get it up, get it going drill that I was showing you is going to be helpful. And in the mechanical drills playlist, you're going to see a how to gain momentum during your leg lift drill. It's a 3-part series, so that drill will help you with that. For the other 3 guys in this group here, we can watch again now your leg lift and your body's ability to get going down the mound. Watching your hand separation and into that moment of foot strike. So we do that again for the top of your guys' leg lifts. Watching the hands separate. And we'll pause it here at foot strike so we can discuss in more detail the things that we learned in the big league videos to what we're seeing with you guys here. So like we saw, we want that backside to have rotated us forward. And we can see all three of you guys, or sorry, all four of you guys have in fact gotten the back foot, back knee, and back hip to successfully rotate and drive the whole body forward. What we are going, excuse me, to notice with the front legs is tough to see in this perspective, but if there was anything that needed to be mentioned about your front leg, we would have discussed it in the front view breakdown. So 1 and 2 are guys that we talked about, excuse me, front leg having some instability issues at foot strike. But all in all, everyone's back legs are doing the movements that we want to and are getting the bodies to get going. Now it's about at what rate are we able to get it going. If we kind of draw some lines here through the center, let's go back a little bit further, through the center of our heads, the best I can with my trackpad here on my Mac. All right. We got these lines, and if we watch, at what point in time do we see the head break that line? So boom, we can see Cox over here. He's already starting to gain some ground towards that target. He's starting to get a little bit of his body momentum drifting towards the target. We got the drift now occurring down over here for shoot, who is this? Oh, that's right, Mr. Darling. So something we want to think about is we got this good angled leg lift on the way back towards our throwing hand. Now we got to find a way to have that body start to drift down the mound during that last like 10% of the leg lift's ascent up. So that way we have some momentum to go forward with. So that way when we use our back legs, as well as you guys do, we're driving forward more energy, and more energy can be used for more power with our throw. However, like we said, once you guys get to foot strike, the body looks the way it should. Now it's just a matter of bringing the most amount of power as possible and then being able to translate that lower body energy and power into upper body energy and power. And the more stable and well positioned that front leg is, the easier that's going to be. And the more aggressive we are to that point in time, the more aggressive it'll be as it comes out. At this moment of foot strike, we also talk about splitting the body into two halves, that upper and lower. We'll now talk about that upper half. From the front view, we've already discussed the chin looking down the shoulder with that glove finishing up into our body. And the four of you guys all have good glove finishing instincts. But we can see Mr. Cox, just how much those shoulders have rotated through as we're trying to get that front foot nestled into the ground. We can see Ventimiglia's kind of arch and what that looks like from this side view here. Okay. But like we talked about, all you guys do a good job from this point in time on keeping your eyes on the target as everything rotates down and around. Right? We're getting things to come down and around. Mahar, if we watch, from here to here is where you're at foot strike, your shoulders to your hips. When you get to release, you're here. And then we get down to here, kind of. Actually, you know what? You're good. It's the angle. You're just so far over here with rotation. But I can clearly see that your number is up in the air. So you've come down plenty for a good, healthy arm finish. To be able to give your arm enough time to slow itself down. Yeah, I mean, all in all, this group right here, we got a lot of good things going for us. In terms of our overall mechanics. Once we get this front leg situated and we get this front leg situated, this group here should be able to carry a good bulk of innings for you guys. And then once we learn how to get this momentum going, two things are going to occur. We should see velocity go up, but most importantly, you're not going to have every single guy that's on base want to take it on you because you're taking so long to get that ball to your catcher, and you're not going to have to feel like every single time a guy gets on base, you're just slide stepping every single pitch. That's the last thing we want. So one more time, we'll let this thing roll for you guys. So get it up, get it going for you right here, right now. So that way these guys don't give you a whole leg lift head start and then come catch up with you at the end. These two guys is thinking about a little bit more of a drift during that top of that leg lift so we can carry more energy through. And then my two guys there at that moment of foot strike thinking about getting that leg more in line with that target with better rotation to the target before it gets into the ground. All right, we got you guys' group side view videos here to now watch. We've been able to observe the big league videos from the side, and now you got yours to be able to watch. So we'll let this go through another time and having it get paused at that moment of foot strike. Boom. So some of the things that we learned with that big league talk is we want to think about the body in two halves, upper and lower half, splitting ourselves at the waist. We want this lower half to have rotated ourselves forward through the hips, knees, and feet, while the upper body fights to stay back and not rotate. So the lower half rotate, upper half not rotate. Once the front foot hits the ground, then we want the upper half to rotate around. So whatever amount these upper half starts to rotate around before that front foot gets into the ground firmly, the less we'll have to rotate those shoulders with to throw the baseball, which will lower our power. It's going to add a little bit of extra stress to our throws. Just because our arm is having to make more of the throw and less of our body is able to make the throw. Excuse me. So if we take this back one more time and just watch your guys' back feet, back knees, and watch how they move the rest of your body forward as you are on one leg here. And then watch how they rotate the lower body right before that front foot hits the ground. So we'll do that one more time. Leg is coming up. Watching my back knee, my back foot, and how are those two things taking my body forward. All right. One of the things that we're going to notice is around this point in time here, we have a hip, knee, foot position. We have a hip, knee, foot position. And then here we have a hip, knee, foot position. Right? So these guys are in a position to be able to really rotate forward, rotate their bodies forward. You're in a position to kind of just like step or spring yourself forward. Because once this knee starts to go in like this, you can't really rotate it anymore. And what you're going to notice is as these guys' knees rotate, your knee is just going to kind of extend and your leg's going to go straight, right? It's kind of just extending, extending, extending. And we see rotation, rotation, rotation from the other guys. So something we want to think about is as we're getting our body to go down this slide here, we want to try to keep this knee sturdy, strong, above our foot for as long as we can, so that way we can drive our bodies out. And what we'll notice with you is that knee quickly kind of collapses, and then now we're just kind of there. So that could be a reason why your glove is getting out this way, is because it's trying to get this backside to rotate by pulling this way and attempts to get this to kind of get pulled along with it, which would result in a rotational like movement. So maybe the reason your glove has begun to form a habit of yanking is an effort to correct your lower body. Maybe not. Maybe it's just something all of its own, but it would make sense that this could be a habit that was developed because of this. So just want to think about rotating our back knee rather than just kind of extending or pushing our back knee to get this front foot in the ground. And that's going to help us create more rotational power with our lower half, which will supply our upper half with more power to rotate itself with. One of the things that I'm noticing here, Gregorich, is indications of a very long stride. We're really trying to reach out there, right? You're a tall kid who's got these long limbs that you're probably still trying to get used to, right? You're still growing into this body. And I think we may benefit from, man, I don't know. Because it's tough to say. And I've been watching your clip before I started recording this, and I thought I had something in mind, but now watching it again, I've changed my mind for probably the third or fourth time. Because, I mean, we do the rotation well with the back leg, but I feel like we're just in such a sunken position here. If we draw a line through your head and we let this play through, we're going to notice that you start to gain ground. You start to gain ground there. You're starting to gain ground towards the target, and then it kind of stalls out and just goes super far down. We're traveling down this rope really far before we actually start to gain any ground. And that may be why we get into such a big bend with this back knee, and this knee gets so close to the ground at this moment of foot strike. So something that could be beneficial for us, it's the same thing that Mahar is going to be actively working on, is get it up, get it going. And let's just get this body going this way quicker before it goes this way. So that way we're going in more of a sloped path rather than a down and out path. And that may help us be able to get this front leg in a better sturdy position when we land, because we're not going to be so low to the ground, so it won't feel like it has to be in such a big deep bend. It may be able to be in a less of a bend or a bigger degree of an angle, right? You're getting close to 90 degrees. We want that to become a bigger angle, so a straighter leg. And that will help here, right? So we're just going to think about trying to be taller for longer, get it going sooner before we get too deep. There may be a bunch of different ways for you to think about it, but the goal is to be more elevated at this point in time. So that way this knee is not as close to the ground, and that'll result in potentially a less of an angle with this front leg at the knee. Mr. Hef, what we're going to notice here, as I told you, looking at you in the delivery, I was very impressed with the improvement since the last time I saw you a few years ago. That it was looking clean enough in full speed that I didn't have anything for you, but I would hopefully be able to catch something in slow-mo. And if we just kind of notice how really up here we're releasing that ball, if we could potentially find a way to hang on to that baseball and release it more out in front of us, we're going to get more action on that ball in terms of its movement, and we're going to see potentially, hopefully, an uptick in the velocity as well. So in order to do that, we're just going to need to think about using our chest to get down more through release. So right now, we're here at release. We are at here. We want to think about trying to get like out to here. And then once we come comfortable there, then trying to get like out to here at release. We're talking like 0.01 seconds, ball in your hand longer. And to help you do that, we can think about taking this down more aggressively, getting this chin out more aggressively, so that way we can keep that ball in our hand for a little bit longer, ultimately leading to it getting released a little bit more out in front of us. Because I had to say, the ball's already out of your hand here, so we're probably releasing it in here. And we can see like a guy like Gregorich, that ball is coming out of his hand here. It's definitely out there. That's getting more out in front of his front foot. And then same thing with ball's definitely out there. So here we bring that down. So just something for you to be able to get a little bit extra power out of it, your delivery, because everything else is looking really good, man. For as far as you've come, I'm really liking what I'm seeing. All right, we got you guys' side view videos synced up with one another to the moment our front foot gets into the ground. So we'll play that back again for you guys to take a look at and watch yourself, how your body's flowing, how that leg lifts, helping you gain ground and carry energy into that moment that foot's getting into the ground. Okay, so at this moment of foot strike, like we learned with the big league videos, is that we want the lower half to have rotated us forward towards the target, right? While we're in that leg lift, the only body part that can move our entire body is this back leg, right? So as we watch from the top of you guys' leg lifts, the only way you're going to go forward is if your back leg takes you forward. So now the only way your lower body is going to rotate is if your back leg rotates while you're on one leg. And your front leg's got to rotate while it's in the air. So that way, when both feet are in the ground, both knees, both hips, both feet have rotated towards the target. And like we see over here with Mr. Constantineau, his back foot, back knee, and back hip, along with foot, knee, and hip of the front side, have rotated towards the target. And same thing over here with the knee, hip, and foot rotated forward, and the same on the front side. And what we notice over here, and like we mentioned in the front video, we have that front knee that quite not yet has finished its full rotation, getting the kneecap towards the target. And right now your kneecap's going into the third base dugout entrance. Something else that we can notice is just how much the back foot of these guys have rotated around, where we can see, well, we're not sure what the logo is of. Oh, it's Nike. Yeah, you can't barely tell because it looks like it's a metallic logo, that Nike swoosh there. We can clearly see the Under Armour logo, which is on the side of the shoe, obviously. And your Under Armour, or New Balance logo, rather, is kind of going up to the sky, up this way, right? Versus being turned over more towards us, indicating a rotation. So your front knee hasn't quite rotated all the way yet, nor has your back foot rotated or turned over. So watching in that big league example from the side view, seeing how their back feet were turning over, rotating through the big toe. Similarly to how these guys' back feet are operating. Okay. Like you talked about in the front video as well, the chin, shoulder, and glove. We can see what that looks like from here and how well we can see and read the jerseys at the moment of your guys' foot strike. And we can see how we discussed in the front view how that back arm is already starting to come through to throw versus it being loaded back still and back towards first base still. We then come through to release, and what we're going to notice is we draw a line through you guys' center of your bodies. Oops, that's not a good one. And then we see what that, from your belt buckle to your head is at the moment of release for everybody. So Constantineau, boom. We got ball out over here. And then ball out here, right? So we have this amount of the upper body supplying power down the mound. And then we want to see how much we get for this deceleration, right? So we got a lot of deceleration, almost more deceleration with that upper body going down than you use to go down to make that throw with. And that's what I was referencing with about how we're going to want to try to get this upper body to be out here more, at release versus here. Right? Really reaching out there. That's how this big frame, this big strong body of yours is going to help create even more power, is by being able to pull this bad boy down through release. Right? And then we can see your upper body knows that it should be going down through release. It's just tough for it to do it because we've already begun so much of our upper body's rotation before it was time to start to actually throw. And we can see how that oomph right there of the boom, boom, boom. It wants to go down. So once we're able to start this throw from a stronger position, your body's going to want to do things that's going to help it continue to be strong. We just need to get it to be in a stronger starting position. One thing I'll comment on, and the only person I've seen keep the ball in their glove for this length of duration of their delivery, like your leg lift being this far along into its stride, is was Luke K-Meg, who I'm sure you got to see him pitch at some point. He's the only guy that I've ever seen keep a ball in his glove super long, and you may keep it in even longer, which may be the reason why when your arm loads up, that throwing elbow starts to come through. Notice how the elbow is kind of going underneath the hand. The elbow is kind of going underneath the hand as the hand is trying to come up. So if we, from like this spot right here, drew a line, we're going to notice, yeah, the ball is going up, but the elbow is also going down. And we haven't gotten any extra big league videos for any of these yet, but we'll just do this real quick because you haven't had really anything from the front or the side. So I want to make sure I can give you something to help you visualize some type of mechanical adjustment we can be making along the way. So if we just kind of take a look at Ben Joyce here, and we just put him like over here in his own little box. All right, so we get Ben Joyce going through his slow-mo. And we'll kind of get at the same point in time where those arms, and he's an early swing guy, so this may not be the best example. Yeah, let's get someone else. He's an early big arm swing guy. He was just the first guy I saw there on that list that throws super hard. Oh, that's his front view. I don't want that. All right. All right, so we got DeGrom. So as his arm is, all right, we'll say here, so that way we'll kind of get, right? So both of you guys are in rather similar spots with your upper bodies, in terms of here, right? Also in terms of how close you guys are to foot strike. Okay? So if we then draw that line, and we draw that line elbow to elbow, and then we proceed for the gram, we can see that that elbow is still very much on that same plane, right? And that's because mostly the hand is loading up. Whereas with you, we have the hand, yes, is loading up, but it's also the elbow going down. So we just want to make sure as we load this ball up that we're getting the whole arm up. So from here, we want to think it's just get that hand up now. Get that hand up now. But other than that, dude, your delivery is looking very good, just like it has ever since I first met you, however many years ago that was. So we'll get you guys going here one more time. Oops.